In today's introduction, we're getting acquainted with an extraordinary French gentleman from the 19th century who had an unusually long beard. Louis Coulon was born in 1826 and is well known for his 3.5-meter long beard that grew over most of his life. At the age of just 12, Louis was already complaining of blunt razors from overuse, and as early as 14 was already sporting a whopping 0.5 meter of growth. Crazily enough, before bed, Coulon would have to tie up his beard to avoid strangulation. Eventually, he attained a somewhat famous status and gained an international notoriety for his beard. With his unique looks, he modelled for many postcard prints, especially with his cat nested within his beard. A custom first adopted 1,000 years ago in China, the lotus foot was seen as a symbol of beauty, wealth, and prestige. It was comprised of physically altering and tightly binding the feet of young girls in order to change its shape and size. The young girl's feet would end up appearing petite and folded. Women with bound feet wore special tiny shoes decorated with beautiful embroidery. The practice was so widespread, 40 to 50% of all Chinese women in the 19th century were said to have had lotus feet, and in upper-class Chinese women, the figure rose to almost 100%. In 1664, the Chinese Emperor Kangxi attempted to forbid the tradition, but failed. Similarly, in the 1800s, Chinese reform groups tried to stop the practice as well. However, it took until the beginning of the 20th century for the tradition to begin to cease. It was definitely one of the most uncanny yet vastly fascinating cultural traditions in the whole of East Asia. This photo, taken in 1859, depicts a rescue party known as the Immortal Ten, a group of militant abolitionists from the Kansas Territory. They had freed Dr. John Doi, shown seated, from a Missouri jail where he was being held for allegedly abducting slaves. Dr. John Doi and his son Charles had been arrested by bounty hunters in an attempt to deliver slaves to freedom. While his son was acquitted of the charges and released, John was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Led by Major James Abbott, the 10 men shown in this picture took it upon themselves to rescue Doi, an action that probably looked like something out of some Western movie. Silas Sewall, a man famously known as the captain who refused to open fire on the Cheyenne Indians at Sand Creek in 1864, had also participated in this rescue party. This photo, taken in 1940, depicts a sailor who strikingly resembles Popeye the Sailor, the famous cartoon character created by Elsie Segar from Chester, Illinois. The photo is often used to show that Popeye was a real person. But reading further on the internet, it seems that there was actually someone else, a real person born in 1868, that inspired Segar to create this interesting and beloved character who gains a boost in strength by eating spinach. Word of mouth in the city Chester holds that the character of Popeye was inspired by town resident Frank Rocky Fiegel, pictured here. In his younger days, he performed amazing feats of strength. His hardened physique made him affectionately known as Rocky. His reputation for fighting led to his iconic popped-out eye, hence Popeye. His angular jaw and familiar corncob pipe apparently impressed Elsie Segar. Upon this, there was an additional hometown resident of Chester who also served as an inspiration for the other Segar character, Olive Oil. Her name was Dora Pascal, an uncommonly tall, angular lady who ran a general store in town. She even donned a hair bun close to her neckline. Susanna Salter was an American politician and activist, most recognized for being the country's first female mayor. On April 4, 1887, Salter was elected mayor of Argonia, but she never ran for office in the first place. When she found out her name was on the ballot, she was hanging up her washing. Susanna Salter's name was put on the ballot by a group of men opposed to women's suffrage in order to humiliate her and the causes she supported. Well, guess who got the last laugh in the end? She won by a large margin, becoming the first female mayor and the first woman to hold any political office in the United States. This spectacular World War I shelter is located roughly 8,800 feet above sea level in the Monte Cristallo Massif, which is part of the Italian Dolomites, and can only be reached by adventurous hikers and climbers. The shelter is thought to have been built by Italian forces fighting the Austro-Hungarians in the high-altitude Alpine sector of the Italian front during the so-called White War. It's unclear how the refuge was built, but the troops were known to use rope ladders and cableways to mount the rock faces. This is a touching picture of a 16-year-old German soldier, Hans-Georg Henk, crying as he is captured by the US Ninth Army in Germany on April 3, 1945. Henk burst into tears as his world crumbled around him. He lost both parents during the war, leaving the family destitute. To support the family, he joined the Luftwaffe at only 15 years of age, as a Hitler Youth soldier. After World War II, he went on to live a full life in East Germany and died in 1997. That's all we had for today. We hope you enjoyed.